All right. For someone who is I was agnostic on our theme music for like the whole time we were trying to pick it. I think we found landed on something good. No
I like
credit to me. Yeah.
it.
So welcome to Dynasty 365 podcast, the Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast from the Fantasy and Frames Network, fantasyandframes.com. I'm Brian. I'm Brian Ford. I'm joined by Tyler Heil, my co-host. How are you, Tyler?
I am wonderful. I am keeping track of a tornado warning that is about
Yes.
10 miles west of my house and
Okay.
could get interesting.
Right. I think the theme tonight might just be embrace the chaos, right?
Yeah.
Because between your tornado and free agency tornadoes and our scheduling, it's just let's just do this. So for those of you who are seeing the word primer in the title, we made, I guess, slight scheduling error in that we didn't remember how many deals would be announced by the time this date would happen. And so we were supposed to tell you about the wide receivers and tight ends entering free agency. Some of them have been closed, that they've been signed. So we're just going to do kind of a hodgepodge of everything here, of who's been signed, who's still left, and hopefully no tornadoes, and we'll find our groove. All right, ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready, man. Let's do this.
All right.
Talk about
So
some way too big deals.
yeah, there's some weird, I mean, the Gallup deal looks cheap now, right? When you look at some of these things. Before we get into sort of individual players, let's think about it. You're a dynasty manager and you have a player going into free agency. What are you looking for as far as good landing spot or bad landing spot? How can a landing spot one way or the other affect a wide receiver?
Oh, man. I mean, there are some teams that just want to run the ball. You're looking for several things. You want a good quarterback, of course, when you're talking wide receivers and tight ends. You want someone that's throwing the ball that's actually good. You want a team that is going to pass the ball and not just run the ball way too much. You want opportunity with that volume, so you don't want a crowded wide receiver room and then them jump in and be the third receiver. And yeah, I mean, those are the three basic tenets of what you're looking for: quarterback, volume, and scheme.
Okay.
And what do you think?
One more thing to tag on to that. I guess the age-old question: small slice of a bigger pie, or bigger slice of the existing pie, as far as a wide receiver goes. Do you are those things neutral? Do they match horizontally, or would you rather have the guy who has the bigger role in a less prolific offense?
I mean, I think I always lean toward I want the guy on the better offense.
Okay.
But there's plenty of opportunity to be had in places like Detroit.
Right.
And
They're going to throw a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're still not a great team. I like what they're building, but they're going to throw a lot. Goff is probably going to be a reasonable waiver a lot this year because they're going to be throwing a lot. So, I mean, I still lean toward the better offense. So where do you go?
I think so. Yeah, I think all things considered, I think this was an argument on Twitter a little while ago about in Dynasty, Pittman versus Higgins, right? And part of the debate was this particular issue, and a lot of people lean towards, listen, I'd rather have the number 2 on that offense in Higgins than the number 1 on the Colts offense, and I tend to agree.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, who knows who's going to be throwing the ball for the Colts? So that's
Sure. Yeah, that was
different. But still, I'm not entirely sure which one of those two is more talented. I think they're both very good. That I feel like that's a really good kind of Mendoza line for like top 24 dynasty wide receivers when you're talking those two guys.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I probably have Higgins a little higher, but I think the idea is that, like, very good talent in both situations are very different. And when that debate was happening, Wentz was quarterback of the Colts, and now
Sam Ellinger? Hey, it could be me. I need to go warm up the arm.
It's Ellinger. That's,
Is there an umlaut or accent?
Okay, so let's start getting into individual wide receivers. Some signed, some not. So what me and Tyler did to prepare for this show is that we kind of each picked a couple guys that we wanted to say this would be a good landing spot. And then, of course, everybody who I was going to talk about got signed. So here we are. And one of the guys I was going to talk about is Christian Kirk. So he got a huge deal from the Cardinals. So when this started, Spotrac had his market value at about 12.2 million AAV. There were reports this could shoot up as high as 15 or 16. And here we are at 18. But you have a nugget about what that really means after the first year.
I mean, the way they structured it is he has a massive cap hit every year except this year. He has a $7.5 million cap hit this year and then 21.5 every other year over the life of the contract. They're going to be paying out the nose for this guy who's probably a number 2 wide receiver at best.
I would say so. Yeah, I'd say he's a good number 2, and that's where and that's why I wanted him to land in somewhere like Buffalo. With the exit of Sanders and Beasley and be part of that pass happy offense, even the struggling Jets to pair with Elijah Moore and a developing quarterback, I would have liked. I'm not saying this is like a terrible landing spot, right? But I do want to say this, right? So I host another Dynasty podcast, and my co-host of that podcast hosts another Dynasty podcast, and on that show, a man by the name of Chad Mendoza said, Kirk's going to the Jags. He's going to go get the bag. And I thought, is he really going to chase the money? That team is horrible. Why would he go there? And here we are. So let's talk about the impact of him going to the Jags. First of all, as far as a move from the situation as it was in Arizona, step up, step down, horizontal. What are we thinking?
I'm going to go ahead and call this actually a step up, I think, from Arizona, because Arizona had a lot of mouths to feed. I mean, when they're all healthy, you had Nuck in there. You had Zach Ertz, who was, we'll talk about him later in the episode, but he had a pretty significant role there. So, he was probably number 3 on that offense, and that offense wasn't really humming. I honestly, the Arizona Cardinals was one of the worst teams for me to watch last year. So
Okay.
I wasn't crazy about their offense. I have some faith in Doug Peterson to actually construct a professional level offense, and I have not quit Trevor Lawrence yet.
Sure,
I think Trevor
me either.
will produce some high quality fantasy options, and even if Kirk might not be a wide receiver 1, he's still going to get a lot of volume.
Okay. Yeah, I think absolutely. Yeah, because what's there even after this shopping spree? Ingram, Zay Jones, have they, they're probably going to trade Chenault, so I think that his volume is a good bet there. So now let's talk about the impact he has on other players, right? Say I'm a dynasty manager and I have Etienne on my team, right? Is the Kirk signing good or bad? I usually think about this in pretty generic terms, like rising tide lifts all boats. The offense will improve with better pieces. So it's, they'll move the ball more, probably good for everybody. Do you agree with that?
Yes. But to add an extra layer to it, like
Sure.
my favorite way of looking at wide receivers is you're building a basketball team.
Right. Yeah.
So you want your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I feel like Christian Kirk is going to be a good 1 for them, maybe a 2. He's going to be able to stretch the field. He's going to open up the middle of the field for people like Travis Etienne, for people like Marvin Jones. I don't, 32 years old. I don't know if Marvin Jones is going too deep anymore. I think he's just going to be savvy and get open. So like I said, it's a huge contract for Christian Kirk, but I do think he's going to accomplish what they want, and he's going to add an extra layer to that offense. And I'd say you'll see some Kirk. I feel like he's going to wind up to be a boom bust player coming in this year. He's going to have some huge games. He's going to have some disappointing games. I don't know if it's to this level, but maybe a Tyler Lockett type of deal.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that. So I am looking at him as far as like, okay, now there's this news. that this big contract making a splash, right? He's in the headlines. If I'm moving him, which you may or may not do, right? I mean, you may think this is a good spot and as a whole. It all depends on your team's cycle of where you are in that and all that. But say I am moving him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that starting the ask with a late first is all that nuts, considering uh, this big contract and the potential volume that he has, and paired with a young stud quarterback. I don't know that I'm paying that, but I might start the ask with that. So trade value. What's your thoughts?
That I feel like we're on the same wavelength there. I was gonna say if I had Kirk, I'd want a 110, 111, 112. But on the same page, what you just said of I'm not paying that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have near the confidence in this situation to go out and pay a 110, 111, 112 in a super flex league where I have a shot at people like maybe Treylon Burks or who are the other? I'm drawing a blank here. Drake London, people like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd rather have a shot at the upside. I kind of know who Christian Kirk is. Do you think he's gonna develop into some new player?
Okay. Would you do 2 seconds?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I in this draft class, I mean, there's some good players, but I don't know if they're going to have huge fantasy impacts.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I would throw 2 seconds out there and see if maybe he does end up being wide receiver. What do you think? Wide receiver 20, 22, something like that? Would that be a good season?
Oh, geez, gosh. Maybe, yeah, maybe he's got a shot at low end wide receiver 2 as far as like at season's end.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd say that's reasonable. Yeah. Okay, one more thing.
All right.
You're a dynasty manager. You have a certain quarterback who is short in stature on your team, who just lost Christian Kirk, added to some uncertainty with Nuke, AJ Green, old and a free agent. How are you feeling about Kyler? I mean, this probably doesn't move the needle too much, but how do you feel about Kyler after Christian Kirk signs?
I don't think it changes a lot of how I feel about Kyler. I think it might be enough for me to take guys like Joe Burrow and bump him over Kyler in my rankings. But honestly, I mean, what is that, 4 to 5, something like that, 5 to 6. And Kyler's still going to be a monster on the ground. He's still going to put up all kinds of fantasy points. Does it change how you're feeling about him much?
I don't think so. I think in general, toward the end of the season and into the off season, I kind of have been a little back and forth with like some reservations and uncertainty, for a few reasons. And I want to see how it all shakes out, right? Because they don't have much cap space. I don't know what they're going to do in the draft. They did re-sign Connor. They did lose Edmonds. I happen to be way low on Hopkins. Like, I don't want him anywhere near my team. 10-foot pole situation. So I want to see what he's got, to play with, because he can, get you those points on with his legs, but I think part of the reason people were excited about him recently was his development as a passer, and I don't know, I'm kind of worried. Again, top 5, 6 talent, right? Probably, but certainly a little less hyped about him recently.
Yeah, I do not blame you.
Okay, let's go to one of the guys that you want to talk about, right? And let's go to the sunny side of the street, perhaps, in that we still have hope that our prediction might be right. Let's talk about A-Rob, Allen Robinson, still out there. What does the future hold for Allen Robinson?
Oh man, I'm hoping it is a very good team and a very good quarterback. Maybe the Packers will come up with, they'll pull some more cap room out of their derriere and sign A-Rob to a few-year deal. That would be honestly a wet dream for me. Just
Okay.
I've been a fan of Allen Robinson forever. But that said, get him a real QB for the first time. He just wasn't in a good situation last year. I will make excuses all day for Allen Robinson. He didn't want to be in Chicago. Everyone knew he didn't want to be in Chicago. They forced him to stay. He didn't want to sign his franchise tender. He signed it. He wanted a long-term deal somewhere that wasn't Chicago, somewhere that wasn't Matt Nagy, and he didn't get it. And I mean, can you blame the guy? You want to see him play all out, but when that gets in your head like that, I don't know, man. Your mental health's important when you're playing in a situation like that in a game like this. So, to be honest, Packers would be a wet dream, but Allen Robinson screams like a Raiders signing or a Patriots signing or even a Texan signing.
Okay.
I think either of those spots would be great. I mean, Raiders, you got Derek Carr. He played like a top 12 quarterback. Patriots, they desperately need to get Mac Jones some more weapons with the level of promise he showed. And even Texans, man, you got Davis Mills out there. That's your boy.
Yeah. Get on the Mills train.
Yeah, I think he could produce some top fantasy options. He did in Brandon Cooks, so why not more?
Yeah. All right. I can dig those. So I'm looking at it, say, let's take the flip side, right? I'm a dynasty manager. I got A-Rob on my roster, right? He's going to be was he going to be 29 in August, or he did turn 29 this past August? I forget. Either way, he's around.
He is turning 9.
Okay. So all right. So he's 29. I see a player who, as much as I'm a huge mental health advocate, and that, like, I don't know, like, was it mental health? He just dogged it. What about that argument, right? That you're a real life GM sitting out there, and you're seeing this guy, basically, just call it a day and phone it in because he didn't like his situation. Is that somebody you want to sign? Is he going to be lingering around till the end? I don't know, but I do know there's a few people that I talk to who think he's a great buy, and they're scooping up all the A-Rob they can. Are you trying to scoop him up?
Yeah, I mean, I would give up probably a late second for him. I mean, I don't want to overpay for a price, even just because I believe in a guy. Because a lot of what you said has a lot of merit. That's probably why he wasn't signed like in the first 24 to 36 hours of free agency, because people watched his film last year and they're like, what the hell is this guy doing? That wouldn't give me the warm and fuzzies. Like I'll make excuses for him all day, but what you said certainly has merit. So what would you pay for him?
Let's see here. A-Rob. Okay, so you know me, I'm terribly ageist sometimes when it comes to these things. I will admit that. But if I'm contending in the next couple of years, I have some interest in the upside of Allen Robinson, right? You said late second. I think I would do late second. I might sprinkle in a third to sweeten it if somebody was like real intractable about it, and I definitely wanted him as a a piece. So yeah, but I don't know that I'm going higher than that right now until I just don't have the confidence in that, right? So
yeah.
So let's go back to the dark side of the street. The rain on my parade of making predictions. I'm going to do a quick hit on Russell Gage, right? A guy who was essentially forced into wide receiver 1 status for much of the year, and is probably better served as a slot wide receiver 3. I had him going to Detroit. To sort of be solidly in the slot, and that way Amon-Ra, could move around. He's a low A-dot guy for a low A-dot quarterback. He wound up with the Bucks, and I know, some folks are like, wah, wah. I don't know. It's the old, the pie is bigger, right? Yeah. It's a role he's better suited for. He's going to have Brady, as much as I hate Brady, right? He's going to have Brady at quarterback. Like, I don't know that it's that bad. I think it's a good fit for him. I think for as far as his fantasy value goes, I don't think it's a big hit, if any. I mean, he was playing with Matt Ryan on the Falcons, for crying out loud, So that's kind of my quick hit on Gage. What I want to ask you though is now that he's there, what does that mean for, we don't have the audio drops of funeral music, taps. What does that mean for my Tyler Johnson could be a thing motto?
Yeah, I think at the end of last season, Bruce Arians and Tom Brady saw all they wanted to see of Tyler Johnson. He was not super reliable. He was forced into a lot of snaps, and he did not play all that well. And they got Brady back, and they immediately said, "Okay, we need another guy that's going to play in these 11 personnels for us, because I don't know how many other personnel." 11 personnel means 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. So they're going to want 3 wide receivers on the field, and I don't think they wanted to give Tyler Johnson a ton of volume there.
Can't hurt Godwin and Evans, right? Like having Gage around, right? I mean, no move the needle one way or the other, but it can't hurt, right?
Right, and this is my favorite part about projecting, which is going to be a big part of our draft guide that we drop in the summer for Fantasy and Frames. We're talking about doing that. But yeah, we're going to start projecting and do stuff for redraft. But that said, when you split this offense up into a pie, Tom Brady's probably going to throw for about 5,000 yards again.
Okay.
A fantastic season. One of the best wide receiver seasons of all time is 1,800 yards. Even if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who is not going to play a portion of the season because he just tore his ACL, somehow both had 1,800 yards, they would still have 1,400 yards to go around. I mean, we don't know if Gronk's back. We don't know what's going to happen with Cameron Brate. I still think he's been a cut candidate for me for years because he has like a $7 million cap hit and no dead cap. OJ Howard's gone. Antonio Brown is clearly gone. Like, there's still a lot of opportunity to be had in that offense outside of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. And I feel like Russell Gage is going to have a solid year.
Okay. So let's say you're a dynasty manager and you're trying to take advantage of the buzz of the deal and his link with, Tom Brady. What are you asking for? Can you think you can get a late second out of this?
I think you can. Okay. It only takes one, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Someone's got to be out there and see Russell Gage kind of plugged into that Antonio Brown role and start salivating a little bit. And I think I might even pay that for him if it's truly a late second. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I think it's one of those situations where it's like, can I sell him for more than I buy him for? Mm-hmm. And I think that's possible in this situation. And I think in that case, you probably have to pull the trigger. Again, all team dependent, but yeah.
And he's going to be a great insurance policy for Godwin managers when you come into the season, because I still don't know when he's going to be ready to play. It could be late September. It could be November. I mean, you could get 2 solid months of just Mike Evans and Russell Gage, and he could be a top 20 wide receiver in those 2 months.
Okay. Yeah, I can dig it. So let's land the plane with wide receivers. I am going to say kudos to Miami for signing Cedric Wilson. That could get Waddle out of the slot and open up some bigger splash plays for him. But speaking of the Dolphins, former Dolphin, you think that Will Fuller is a sneaky buy?
I do. And part of the reason for that is the price is probably dirt cheap right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude can't stay on the field. That's the long and the short of it. You don't want someone on your roster that's not actually playing the game of football that does not make for many fantasy points when you are not on the field. I scored as many fantasy points as Will Fuller a lot of times last year. It's not what you want.
Same. Yeah.
But that being said, if you can get him for dirt cheap, why not? When that dude is on the field, he's a star. He was on the field for Deshaun Watson for, what was it, the 12-ish games, 11 maybe before he got suspended for PEDs. He was the wide receiver 7. I mean, he was great. And that being said, the whole Deshaun Watson thing, why doesn't Will Fuller follow Deshaun Watson? I mean, I'm still not crazy about the aspect of Deshaun going to the Browns, but you get Deshaun in Cleveland and then you sign Will Fuller. Oh man, there could be some fireworks there. If that dude can stay on the field, you're looking at a possible wide receiver 1 season. So
yeah, but Tyler, there's a problem with that. That would require throwing the ball.
That's okay. Wait, you don't think the Browns are going to shift their offensive philosophy from
I'm just
freaking ball when they don't have Baker Mayfield taking snaps?
So real quick, pop quiz. You're a Browns fan.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't like Amari Cooper to the Browns. What does that do to his value for you?
It certainly lessens it. I think I had him at about wide receiver 27 when he was still in Dallas. Mm-hmm. If nothing changes, I mean, he's certainly gonna drop into the 30s for me. I just don't have a lot of faith that Baker Mayfield's going to produce high-level fantasy producers. I mean, maybe David Njoku will be a high-level tight end producer if Austin Hooper all of a sudden becomes a post-June 1st cut. But I just don't have a lot of faith in how they are required to run that offense with Baker under center. And heck, he's 27. You probably buried him already.
Who's this? I never heard of him. What are you talking about? All right, so we're going to talk about 3 more guys, right? And we'll do so judiciously, knowing that we need to move to the scintillating position of tight end.
Yes.
So let's see here. I think there's 2 that we can't leave a wide receiver free agent conversation without talking about right now. Mm-hmm. And then there's one who I think, we like to do some deep cuts, and you've got a deep cut. So do you want to do the deep cut, the 2 big names, sandwich the deep cut in between? What's your preference?
You know what? Let's knock out the deep cut and then finish with some pizzazz.
All right. Yes. So the deep cut, who I thought, I put him on the list because, hey, he's a free agent and he gets some PPR points, but Jamison Crowder, go ahead, deep cut.
Jamison Crowder has been Mr. Reliable for years. He's never been a super high level fantasy producer. He's kind of been buried on some teams. When he was the only guy on the Jets, I believe it was 2020. I mean, he was actually having some very good fantasy games. So that being said, Crowder is the kind of guy who's going to be a really good slot receiver. He's going to be 29 years old in June. He's still got a couple of years of solid production left. I'd have faith in putting Crowder in my flex spot or my second flex spot in a league, probably week in, week out. So I kind of tiered his landing spots for me. I think easy top tier landing spots for Jamison Crowder is the New England Patriots and Tennessee Titans. The Patriots love their slot receivers. They loved Julian Edelman. They love just people like that. And I feel like Jamison Crowder can fill that role. I think also Tennessee Titans would be a nice fit for him. I don't think Julio has anything left, unfortunately. Very, very sad to say because Julio is awesome. But I think it'd be a very good number 2 in that Tennessee offense who doesn't have a viable receiving tight end because they don't seem to care or want one, which still kind of blows my mind. Anyway, tier 2 landing spots. I like Chicago since they don't have many people there. I like Houston as well. If you start signing too many people in Houston, I might start pulling back a little bit. But and then the Falcons. I mean, there's nothing there, man. Mm-hmm. There's Kyle Pitts and nothing.
Hey, Olamide Zaccheaus.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. I need to write a handwritten note to him apologizing.
No. As a once in a while former / denial Jets fan, Crowder's a cool guy. He was he's a good safety blanket's the right word, but in PPR, it's useful, and I think some of those landing spots could be good, and he's knocking around on somebody's roster somewhere. So, to remain, do you want to talk about the person who signed, who seems like old news by now, or the person who's still out there that a lot of people were wish casting to a specific team?
Ooh, I honestly don't know. I think I know which one of them you're talking about. I don't know who the other one is, though.
Okay, so you want to do the one you know?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have to talk about Michael Gallup at least a little bit. The deal seems pretty cheap, considering some of the other deals that have come out, particularly the Kirk deal. He's a guy I've been big on for a while. I never thought that he could be like somebody's 1, but certainly somebody's high end 2. I think it remains to be seen how consistent Lamb can get, how fast he can get that consistency to be the 1, because I don't think Gallup can be. Either way, I think potent offense, good fit. With Cooper leaving, all in all, I think arrow up as far as value goes on Gallup, and he's somebody who I'm glad that I've kind of held on to, and I think I might in some spots try to move. What say you?
I absolutely love Michael Gallup. I've loved him ever since he came out of Colorado State. Go Rams. I think he was, if you go back a little bit of a deep cut in his draft class, he was PFF's number 1 wide receiver in college. So if you are, if you're into advanced analytics and that's your bag, Michael Gallup's your guy. He is a hell of a receiver. He can go out and just bully ball someone and absolutely moss people. I mean, we saw that in the game where he got injured. He had one of the most beautiful catches in the back of the end zone I've ever seen. And I've just been waiting for this guy to get more volume. When he got injured last year, I traded Juju Smith-Schuster straight up for Michael Gallup. Mm-hmm. And I just said, you know what, just give him to me. I want this guy for next year. Something good's going to happen. And I thought it would be him going to another team, but apparently the Cowboys cleared some space for him. So I'm pretty jacked about Gallup. I'm ready for, they're paying him 13.5 million a year?
Something like that. Yeah, I think it's 5 for 60.
Yeah, man, wheels up. Let's go.
All right, so you are a manager who does not have Gallup, but you do have the love for him that you do. Mm-hmm. How much can you count on or try to use at least a quote unquote injury discount, or does this higher volume and big contract sort of now just make that a moot point in negotiations?
So I'll give you a personal example, since I have Gallup freaking everywhere. Mm-hmm. As soon as he signed that deal, I had someone offer me the 110 this year.
Okay.
And my exact response to them, word for word, was, "I'd rather die." And
okay.
So I would absolutely pay the 110 for Gallup, like all day. I'll crow hop the 110 at you, but I'm not selling him for that. I think the ceiling's too high.
Okay. I don't know that I'm. I think that's the line, maybe, like if it was higher than 110, I think I'd be tempted to pull the trigger, but that might be the line for me. I'd have to think about that. I think that's a real good example. I don't know that I would say that I'd rather die, but so for those of you who play in leagues with Tyler, don't go offering him no 110 for Gallup. Come correct and put some respect on Gallup's name. All right, last guy, you mentioned him. Now this could be complete live television egg on my face, and I didn't get him. I didn't check him off the list of people who had already signed. I don't think I saw a tweet about it. Juju.
He is not signed. You're good.
Right on. Yes, I win. Okay. Now, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Juju to Kansas City, Juju to Kansas City, Juju to Kansas City." He turned them down last time. It's a good fit. I don't know. I don't know too much about any rumors and buzz that's going on with him. But obviously KC would be a good landing spot. But with so many other receivers already signed, there's fewer and fewer landing spots left. Where are you thinking? Not that he could in reality, but like, where's the fantasy landing spot for you?
Fantasy landing spot. See, I have a lot of trouble getting excited about anybody going to Kansas City.
Okay.
That offense is Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and that's it. I think I saw someone put out the fantasy finishes of the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City over the last 5 years, and I think the highest finish was like 52 or something ridiculous like that. So I do have trouble getting excited for that. That said, I feel like I'm just mentioning the same teams over and over again, but there are teams that are good fits. But Green Bay, I think, would be a great fit for him. New England, I feel like he's Jamison Crowder on steroids.
Okay.
He'd be a great fit in New England. I would love those 2 spots. Do you have any other ones?
Off the top of my head, I wasn't thinking of any, but let's see. They might not have the money, but again with the departure of Sanders and likely departure of Beasley, I don't mind him to Buffalo, although they don't have much money. Indy's got $70 million to play with. So I think those 2, just quick looking at this list here, they're not bad. They're not bad for me. I think obviously the Indianapolis one has some fantasy question marks with the quarterback right now. So, but I think those 2 are probably at least reasonable real life fits off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens in Indy with quarterback, because if they did not have something in the works right now, and we already know it's not going to be Deshaun because the Texans said go take a long walk off a short bridge. We're not trading him within our division, which is totally understandable. Mm-hmm. I feel like they have to have something in the works. I don't know what it is. Could it be Derek Carr? Maybe. If they didn't, I feel like we'd already have heard that they're signing someone like Jameis Winston.
What if it ended up being Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I mean, I would still. That is better than Carson Wentz. That is an improvement from Carson Wentz.
Fair enough.
Assuming he still has a hip.
I think you could get people on both sides of that Wentz Fitz argument, but I think either way, it's pretty gross. So speaking of gross, follow us down, viewers and listeners, to the basement, where we will now go into a dark and dreary and damp and cold room that Tyler might be in if the tornado rolls through. And let's talk about these tight ends. Obviously tight end premium leagues, which a lot of us play in. They increase their value, and I just don't know that there's like too much out there that has excited me yet or does excite me. Is there any of the ones who signed already that you want to touch on?
I feel like the highlight of this class is sadly one of the only guys that's going to be fantasy relevant this next year out of these free agents, and it's Zach Ertz. I mean, he was relevant last year, and that was with Christian Kirk, and Nuke was on the field. He was on the field, but who else are they going to throw to right now? Zach Ertz could get 150 freaking targets. He could break his own record for tight end targets in a season, if you didn't know that.
Did not know that, yeah.
He has the record for tight end targets in a season, and is 156. Obviously with the Eagles. But, I mean, hey, maybe he'll take a run at it this year. He played well last year. He's not dead, and tight ends typically can perform into their mid to early 30s, 33, 34. So I still have a lot of faith in that, and I would be buying Ertz if I was tight end deficient, and because I feel like you can have that situation everywhere. I don't know if you're in that situation at all, Brian, but where you're a serious contender, but you don't have anything at the tight end position. I feel like Zach Ertz would be a really good buy for that situation.
Mm-hmm. And I still think reasonable price, like not too much higher than it was a little while ago, right? So I still think the price would be reasonable. Okay, real quick for 2 seconds, I'm just going to say, as a former, somewhat in denial, jaded, erase my memory Jets fan, I'm looking sideways at Uzoma, $8 million a year. # free Kenny Yeboah. Tyler said that the only person out of this bunch that we're looking at on our doc here that could be fantasy relevant is. Was that?
And I meant it.
Okay. Is Zach Ertz. I am going to make the unpopular case, as I often do, see Brevin Jordan, that Gerald Everett might be interesting among this bunch, right? He had a career highs last year in targets, yards, TDs, but was disappointing before that. I still think if you pair him with a good quarterback like he did have with Russ, and he did produce, not a stellar tight end season, but certainly useful, particularly in a premium. I'm gonna wish cast him to the Chargers, who have Cook and Anderson as free agents, Parm on the last year of the contract, Trey McKitty knocking around there. It's a thin draft class, so I don't know that necessarily there's that many alternatives there. They have the cap space. They threw to their tight end 20.8% of the targets, for about middle of the pack there. I say Everett to the Chargers, and that would maintain or increase his value as a passing option there. Still, though, when it comes to trades, as far as Dynasty goes, I don't know that I'm going above maybe 2/3. So tell me why I'm wrong about Everett.
I mean, he had his chance last year, and I know you said he had a fine season, but I mean, he had 4 touchdowns, and those were really the only games that he was even semi-usable, and he could only manage 4 touchdowns with one of the most prolific touchdown throwing quarterbacks in NFL history. That dude, Russ's, I think his career touchdown percentage is like 6%. That's like almost an MVP year. People have won MVP with throwing a 6% touchdown rate, and that is Russ's career average. So I just don't see how it gets much better for him.
Okay.
Even if he does go to LA, I mean, you got guys competing there. You got Josh Palmer, you got Mike Williams, you got Keenan Allen. I would like a cheaper guy for the Chargers because they're spending all of their money on defense.
Okay.
But I guess I can get behind it a little bit, but I personally don't really have any interest in Gerald Everett.
Right on. Well, it's tight ends. We're kind of bottom of the barrel here. So, but those are all fair points, and certainly I put the good spin on it, that polished up the turd, and you gave the other case as well. So that just about does it for us in our hybrid primer review for wide receivers and tight ends. Tyler, where can folks find you on the Twitters?
You can find me at FF Tyler Heil. If you're watching on live stream, it's right up there. I will be throwing out a lot of probably unpopular opinions about just free agency in general, and probably largely about what the Browns do or don't do.
Okay. Stay tuned for Tyler's roasts. I am at FFJunkie_ on the Twitters. I haven't been on it enough lately, but I am sort of pushing out, posts about the content. Neither of us currently, I think, have articles on fantasyandframes.com, but please go to fantasyandframes.com for articles about everything with fantasy football, including Dynasty targets, IDP Dynasty. There's a whole lot going on the website. And of course, we are part of the ever-growing empire, the AKA Fantasy and Frames Podcast Network. Tomorrow night is the flagship, Fourth and Frames. Later on this offseason, the IDP podcast, Shoot the Gap, will premiere. And of course, we have the Daily Fix, a DFS podcast rolling out toward the regular season, and some guys from Daily Fix will be hopping on with us to talk about prospects in the next coming weeks. And you can find all that information at FIF Pod Network on Twitter. Okay, folks. Tyler in Tornadoville.
Yes.
Have a good night, and thanks for listening. And that's a wrap.
See ya.